Tell me about how your education in Puerto Rico really inspired you or prepared you for a career in journalism.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was very pivotal actually because I actually was very undecided when I was trying to choose what I wanted to pursue as a career. I actually started pursuing a degree in science with the idea that I was going to go to pharmacy school and become a pharmacist. And in the back of my mind, I always had this dream of going for journalism. And so eventually that's how I landed at my university, La Universidad del Sagrado Corazón. And I feel like the education that I got there, that I know just from following the school on social media, it's gotten even better since I left. But the education that I got there really reinforced this love for journalism and this need for good and truthful, honest, and fierce journalism in our society. So I feel like if I would have gone somewhere else, I don't know where I would have ended, but just going there really reinforced this passion that I had always kind of like felt.
You went on to get a higher degree. Do you feel like that's something that's the right move for everybody, or what caused you to seek that higher degree?
Yeah, for me, it was a very personal decision. And I feel, particularly in Puerto Rico, it always feels like there's this need to be pursuing higher education after you get an undergrad degree. Your parents want you to get a master's. And then my parents actually wanted me to get a doctorate degree after I had my master's. And I was like, no, like that's not going to happen. This is as far as it's going. But for me, it was a very personal decision. I felt, and at the time, I wanted to do journalism out here in the continental US. And so I felt that in order to make myself more competitive and to be more ready for that, I wanted to pursue that higher level of education in English, knowing that there are some differences between journalism in the United States and journalism in Puerto Rico. I wanted to be as prepared as possible to be able to enter the market and be productive and be competitive.
Do you feel like that's changed, that the environment's changed now for students who are currently in Puerto Rico?
In terms of whether they want to pursue
Need that higher degree to be able to succeed in the
yeah,
US?
no, I think it's very interesting because I feel like, when I was going through it, again, there was kind of like this, you felt kind of like this obligation that you needed to pursue higher education after undergrad. And I feel like particularly in journalism, that perception has changed a lot. I think if you're looking at people who, if you were to compare in this industry who has a master's or a doctorate degree versus who has just a bachelor's degree, most people in this industry only have a bachelor's degree, and they are able to be very successful and to have longevity in this career. So it's very interesting when comparing it to other industries. And I feel like I start noticing that switch, and that people start to understand and to realize that, hey, maybe I don't have to pursue a master's or a doctorate degree to get into this field.
Mhm.
And so I think it's been very interesting to see kind of like that shift in mentality a little bit.
I had the privilege of working with you at your first stop in the professional world at KCRG in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, of all places. You are our bureau reporter for us in Dubuque, Iowa. One of the things that you shared with me when we were going to an ad lib format for one of the segments we were working on is you were concerned about ad libbing in English. What were some of the challenges that you faced, in that first job, and how did you overcome those?
I think a lot of it, and yes, I was like very concerned about it. I remember when I first heard about this idea that we were going to try out, I was very concerned because English is not my first language. I grew up speaking only Spanish or mostly Spanish, except for my English classes at school. And with my family, I speak Spanish. With my friends, I speak Spanish. So most of my life had spent speaking only Spanish. And of course, I feel more comfortable doing it. I feel like I have more vocabulary in Spanish than in English. So it was very nerve wracking at first. I think it's kind of like with a lot of things in the news industry, it's practicing, it's putting yourself out there and doing it and making mistakes. And then, I had a professor that said that it's all right to make mistakes as long as you don't make the same mistake twice. And that was kind of like the mentality that I had with it. It's a learning experience. And I think a lot of it is trusting yourself and your abilities, and also looking for help when you realize that there is an area where you could use mentorship or where you could use advice. I think looking for that help, and that is something that's really big in the news industry. There's this big sense of community and that everyone knows each other and we all want to see each other succeed. It's a very big, like a team family environment. And so I think that's kind of like what helped me back then get over that obstacle and the insecurities and the self-doubt.
Well, you certainly did a wonderful job. And, it was, again, a privilege to be able to work with you. And then, you went to your next position in Knoxville, Tennessee. And then I was thrilled to see that, you were kind of looking for that next step. So immediately I jumped in and I said, Fernando, how can I help you? And so tell us about your next journey and where you're headed to next.
Yeah, so after spending a little over 2 years in Iowa, I came here to Knoxville and I worked here as a reporter for a little more than 2 years. And so it was kind of like time, looking for that next step, for that next adventure. And, I was very open always to the opportunity and the possibility of going back to working for a great station, just because my experience in Cedar Rapids had been so positive. So, I was looking at, you and I connected, I was looking at openings, and this opportunity with Wave in Louisville, Kentucky came up. And, I went through the interview process. I actually got to visit the station in person and meet some of the staff. And, they thought that I would be a good fit for the station. And here I am. So I'm at this point just over a week away from starting my next step there as a reporter at Wave. And I'm really excited, excited to be back with Gray and excited for the opportunity of doing some good journalism there.
As a company, we've really been, noting changing demographics in our country. We've added, a lot of Telemundo affiliates, and even our stations that don't have a Telemundo affiliate are looking at adding some Spanish language elements, whether that's a Spanish language newscast or maybe a digital update. How do you feel like you're going to be able to use your background and your ability as a bilingual journalist in your new position?
Yeah, it's so interesting because, again, going through the job searching process very recently, it was very interesting to me how many stations I talked to from Gray and from outside of Gray who were desperately looking for reporters who could speak Spanish. And that is not only, because they're looking at launching Spanish products or a Spanish newscast or anything like that. It's just the fact that even if you're only going to be doing work in English, they recognize that the Hispanic and Latino communities in the United States are growing exponentially. There are reports that say that Hispanics are going to become the largest minority number, race and community in the United States in a couple of years. And that is the case across the country. So stations are looking for reporters who are able to speak Spanish fluently and to connect with people and to share stories that maybe other reporters would struggle with just because there is that language barrier. And so I recognize, and from talking to Matt, my news director at my news station, Wave, Louisville is one of those cities that has seen a big influx of Dominicans, Cubans, and other Latinos in the city. And there is this, need to connect with those communities and to share their stories and to be able to speak with them one-on-one, not only at Wave, but in the market in general. And so I think that was a big reason of why they were so interested in me, is because, they realized that there is potential there to do some good work and to, report on communities that tend to go unnoticed a lot of times.
For students who are currently studying in Puerto Rico right now and are thinking about, that first step in a career, what can you share with them about Gray as a company, and what advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always tell people that, you have to go into it with an open mind and an open heart. There is so much opportunity and so much potential out there. And I think we get in our minds that we want to be here, we want to be there. And I always tell people, keep your options open, be willing to explore maybe places that you hadn't initially thought of. Because truly, like, the experience that you're going to get is going to be so invaluable. And even if you have to start like in a city where you initially hadn't thought that you could, that you didn't see yourself starting there, the experience that you're going to get there is going to prepare you and get you ready for wherever it is that you want to end up at. And I think there's so much opportunity out there. I think I always also say, be persistent, like, keep in mind that this is an industry where you're going to have to work hard. And some days are really, really hard. Some days are really, really, really fun. And some days you're just trying to make it through. But it's a matter of like realizing that there are a lot of stories out there to be told all across the country. And even if your goal is to eventually, go back to Puerto Rico, like stations in Puerto Rico are looking for bilingual reporters and prioritizing reporters who have experience working in English speaking markets. Again, for the same reason, there is this relationship between the United States and Puerto Rico, and they are finding themselves in positions where maybe they have to send reporters to Miami to cover an event or to cover, a presidential visit or a natural disaster or something along those lines. And they want people who are able and who have that experience working in English market. So it's going to make you very valuable eventually. And so, yeah, I guess kind of like just to summarize things up, like keep an open mind and open heart, be hardworking. And just be open to the possibility of going anywhere.
Fernando, thank you so much for just giving us a little bit more about your journey and sharing your advice. And certainly congratulations on your continued success.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be back with Gray. I think it's going to be an amazing couple of years, and ready to do some good storytelling. Thank you so much for everything.